Patnet asks, where have you been? Well, Patnet, that's a very interesting question. Welcome back, guys, to the Patnet channel. It's been a little bit since I've uploaded here. There's a couple different reasons for that. One of them being I actually went to Hawaii earlier this month and just didn't want to overload myself with work to do because I already had some work to do for work. And then, of course, I also had some work to do for the Cakecore charity marathon, which has since passed. And basically, those have been my kind of focuses for the last few days. But also, I felt like I could use a little bit of time off, especially with bracket breakdown wrapping up. It just kind of felt like a good time to do it, right? But I'm back now. You should expect your usual Patnet uploads. We got podcasts coming up, bracket breakdowns back into production, a bunch of stuff that you guys should be excited for. So what I'm doing today is answering questions in honor of my 8 years here on YouTube. Yes, starting... Well, it's actually technically going to be a few days from now, but starting on August 3rd, it will be my 8th year channel anniversary. And obviously, if you've not noticed already, I decided I was going to do a Q&A for it, picked up some questions over the last month or so, and today I'm going to be answering them on video. So that's what's going on here. For starters, you know, thank you guys, obviously, for sticking around for 8 years. I very much appreciate it. It's crazy awesome that I have been able to articulate myself into a microphone to occasional people who like to watch it, right? Creating things on YouTube has not only been an opportunity for me to really find out more about other people and find out how to respect other people's differences compared to my own, but also in just how to articulate my own opinions and express myself in ways that I definitely could not when I first entered this YouTube journey. So I appreciate those who've stuck around. And of course, here's to another however many years I decided to continue doing this. So the prompt I gave you guys for asking questions is basically I needed one serious question and then one goofy question, and we got those. So you're gonna hear one serious one first, followed by the goofy one, and that's gonna be the entire video, all right? Hopefully you guys enjoy. Most of these questions are pulled from YouTube comments, but I also got some of them from social media networks such as Twitter and TikTok, and if you'd like to follow me in either of those, there's links to those in the description. So there you go. First question I'm going to be talking about is from Derby Dino 35, who asks, how is it going? I assume this is their serious question. It's going pretty dang good from a creative standpoint. I have been able to find a format that works for me. I'm loving the heck of Past Creative Podcast and Bracket Breakdown. And even recently, I started the 3-stock SMP series on Cakecore. That's been more fun than I expected. That's been an absolute blast. And of course, we did the charity marathon. These past 2 months have been great creatively. Also, Patnet Games has been uploading just little passion projects like that. Pretty much, it's passion projects. That's what the age we're in right now. So I've been enjoying the heck out of it. These last few months in particular, since I last made a video like this in June or whatnot, life's been awfully busy. I have definitely had a pretty booked calendar most of the summer, which is a shame, but it's mostly filled with good stuff, so I can't complain so much. And like I said, I did take a little bit of a break, and that certainly helps. So here's to more creative longevity, and as well as maybe a little bit more free calendar time. We'll see, though. Thank you for the question. Of course, the goofy question Derpy Dino also proposed was, how much wood does a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Well, I at one point knew the answer to this because I used to ask this to Siri on my first phone in like 2013. It wasn't my phone, it was a shared phone. But I remember thinking, like, how good is this Siri person? Let's ask it a real question. I asked, how much wood would a woodchuck chuck? I don't know the answer anymore. But I think the better question is, how much would a could chuck if a could chuck would chuck could? There you go. I don't know if that's an original answer, but it's also not a very original question, so what can I say? The next one I'm asking, thank you for the question, Derpy Dino. The next one I'm answering is, what would you say is crucial in smoothly making content with other people? That is such a good question. That's probably the serious one. Crucial in smoothly making content with other people. When interviewing people, the best thing to do is just listen to them, because you can write down as many questions as you want, but ultimately, if the guest starts leading the conversation somewhere, it's probably going to be more interesting to them specifically, and if they're talking about something that's more interesting to them, it's going to be a more interesting podcast. It just kind of works out that way. So there's a lot of times where I put down questions for the guests that I never get to because they mention something that they're clearly more interested in, and then I just ask them to go deeper in it, basically. So big part is just listening, responding to things that you connect to with what they're saying, basically, right? The second you stop listening to what they're saying and let it just be noise and get ready for the next question, that's when you start to trip up every once in a while. And I space out every once in a while. I sometimes will just like, watching the guest, I start looking a different direction. And in those case scenarios, I got to snap myself back into it and just look for things to hold on to when they're talking. Every once in a while they'll say something, they'll mention another art form, like when Naveed mentioned photography, and I was like, okay, lock that in. You're going to respond to that later, because if he liked it enough to mention it subtly, then it's probably something where there's more substance to. So just listening to those cues and stuff, it's so crucial to interviewing specifically. For bracket breakdown, when you're trying to give your opinions and stuff like that, it's just important to remember that everybody is speaking from their own personal experiences, and there's no reason you should really attack that. Of course, things get emotional and sometimes relatively heated. We don't get that heated in bracket breakdown, and sometimes we go with it because it's for the purpose of entertainment, but that's because we're all on the same page. We all know what the common goal is, and that's just not something you want to carry out in any type of normal video. That's not something I would do in an interview. I'm not going to attack anyone's opinions or anything like that. But if I could find a way to make it interesting and comical without obviously blatantly saying, no, you're wrong, then I might go for it. But honestly, just listening to what people say in bracket breakdown and understanding that they come from a different perspective, and rather trying to combat their perspective, what you should do is just articulate your own better. And that's been the most helpful thing for collaborating with other people. For Let's Plays, just make them laugh. Easiest thing. You just, sorry, I don't mean to say that that's easy, but the easiest way to go about making Let's Plays with other people is to just make them laugh. Because if you're making them laugh, you're making the audience laugh. So what a great question. The goofy question is, have you ever laughed so hard that you farted? Can't say I have. I've definitely farted before. I've definitely laughed before. Whether or not there was a laugh before the fart, I really don't know. But there you go. Very rarely is it a fart first and then laughter, because I don't find farting funny. All right? Shame on. That's a joke. Thank you so much for the questions. Sycamore Street Studios, friend of the show, obviously. Oldest online friend that I still talk to today is Tom Peeler from Sycamore Street Studios. He asks, what is the biggest motivator that keeps your creative fire lit? You produce great content so consistently. What keeps you going? Well, first of all, thank you so much for the compliments. But I think the biggest motivator for me that keeps me creating is just how strongly I feel about the content I'm making. Because I've definitely felt the opposite before, where I've worked on some content that I was definitely passionate about at a given point in time, but felt like I had to continue to pursue it even if I lost passion on it. And I think that's a dangerous trap, is thinking because you started something that you have to finish it. That's not necessarily in and of itself bad, but then when you go and start another project and then have to finish that one too, the idea of you having to do something, that's where it becomes difficult, because it's seen more as work or a chore or something that you have to do to better yourself, when reality is the way to just better yourself is to continue doing things that you're passionate about. So I guess just passion. I absolutely love talking about the things that I talk about. And this is such an accessible way to do it. And I don't know. I wish I could give a more clear answer than that, but honestly, it's just reminding myself that this is what I enjoy doing. If at any point you're working on a project, I don't mean you specifically, Tom, but anyone out there, if you're working on a project and you just suddenly feel like, man, like I really don't want to do this, it might be a good time to ask whether or not you actually want to make that form of content. The last thing I'd probably add to that is just that having confidence, seeing what you're creating as actual art has helped so much in just keeping me at it. It's so easy to just hit the record button and think I just recorded something stupid on camera and not think in mind that it is a creation in general. So when I remind myself that I am an artist and this is art that I'm making, whether or not it's good or bad doesn't really matter, because art comes from a place of expression, and that's what I'm doing here, is I'm expressing myself in the most efficient ways that I can. And as long as I keep that in mind, there's some kind of purpose to everything that I do. And that's just to express myself, through whatever it is I create. And I happen to chose videos and I happen to love it. So as long as I remember that, I feel pretty good. But I don't mean to say I don't run into creative burnout. I absolutely do. I when I took a break earlier, I wasn't necessarily burnt out, but I was definitely like, I probably will get burnt out if I don't take a break soon, right? I hope that's at least some insight to your question, but obviously there's not a miracle pill to just take and be like, hey, I'm just going to make a bunch of stuff now. If only, right? But to get to some fun stuff, you have a goofy question. If you are the YouTube king, does that mean you hate YouTube democracy? This is such a specific question to Tom and I's relationship. So in 2018, I made a 5-year anniversary video. I think it was 2018. I'm not going to do the math in my head right now. But in this video, I invited pretty much everybody I've collaborated with before, or at least regularly collaborate with, and had them do a voice part in it. Tom was one of them, so he actually appeared in the video, and the whole gimmick was that I was a YouTube king, and I was bringing in people and stuff like that. I have to give this explanation because it's not a super well-known thing, and I find it absolutely hilarious, and I absolutely love the fact that Tom keeps bringing it up in pretty much all of our interactions. So to answer your question, Tom, I am no longer the YouTube king. I am the YouTube Prime Minister. Self-appointed. I know, kind of crazy. So yes, I still do hate democracy, basically. You know, and not just YouTube democracy. I hate every form of democracy. This is a joke. Please don't take this anywhere else. But thank you, Tom. I really appreciate not just your comments, but also you sticking around and watching for so many years. Compliments from you never go underappreciated. I really do appreciate it. The next question is from Naveed Mohebi. This is someone I interviewed not just once, a couple months ago, but also another time, way back in 2015 or so. He came on for a second interview, an updated one, which is great. And it was very nice of him to leave a comment. So he asked, what would be your dream job and what is your career goals looking forward? I'm really not much of a dreamer. I do this YouTube thing because I'm passionate about it, but whether or not I want to be a specific occupation, such as YouTuber or influencer or podcast, something like that, that's usually stuck in a nebula that I don't really look at. Typically, I'm just more in the moment, but I do have like a goal that I'm looking forward to answer the second part of your question. The goal I'm really aiming towards is basically being able to create and live off of creating. Whether or not that's creating videos or movies or graphic design stuff or heck music, I don't know. I'm not super picky. I just want to be able to create for a living because quite frankly, it's one of the few things I feel I'm good at. I'm not great at a lot of other work environments. I can do it to get around, but the idea of being able to create and just be sustainable with that, that's the true goal. That's the true dream with regards to career paths, right? But thank you for the very thoughtful question. Naveed also asked, this might seem like a serious question to you, so I'm sorry if it's not goofy, but have you ever thought about a different scarf? Shirt scarf? You know what I mean, for variety and whatnot. Not that your current one is bad in any way. So it's funny that he mentions this because Naveed actually probably remembers the shirt branding from even way back then and noticed that it's still here. This shirt I'm wearing right now, this snowman shirt, we're going to get a little peek, all right? The snowman shirt, you don't get to see the whole thing very much these days because everything's pretty much done torso up. Now I probably messed up the camera. I don't even care. Little behind the curtain for you guys. I got this shirt as a gag gift from my sister who gave all of her brothers Christmas gifts, Christmas gag shirts that specifically were meant to be like, that's a lot. This shirt is a lot. This is too much. And she got it back in 2016, I believe. And I was just randomly shooting a video on the beach as some B-roll for a video that has since been scrapped. I think it was top 10 Smash Brothers Flash games. I think that's what was the idea. But I was filming it. She was the camera person while I just did some random stuff at the beach. And there's this one random shot that I ended up turning into my profile picture because I liked it so much. And then the snowman thing kind of stuck after that. You know, some people thought it was kind of funny and stuff like that. All right, cool, I'll go with it. It's so much easier to be like, this is my brand, that's why I'm wearing this shirt, than to actually try to look good. I'm doing this out of convenience. That's really what it is. I have since gotten another snowman shirt, and you've probably seen that in many podcast clips over the last recent months. It looks very similar to this one, but actually looks a little bit nicer. There's a black outline around the scarf and stuff like that, and it's newer, so it's less thrashed. This is a relatively wear and tear shirt, right? But for some reason, I had 2 recordings today. I just could not find it today. This is the first time I've not been able to find my snowman shirt. So I'm going to have to relocate that. But hey, in honor of 8 years, I'm wearing the OG. Let's just say that. So that doesn't answer your question, Naveed, fully. But I guess, heck, you want me to do some saturation things? I'll change the colors right now. Video editing magic. You see that? That answers your question. Yeah, I was going to think about doing it for this video, all right? Also, thank you so much, Naveed, for the questions. You're such a sweet person, and I appreciate you taking the time to write that. The next question is from another person I interviewed, Bailey Ordaway, another awesome creator who I recommend you guys check out if you haven't already. What piece of equipment, software, or whatever else that you've gotten over the years do you feel improve the quality of your content the most? So with regards to quality, honestly, when I first got my Blue Yeti microphone way back in like 2014, that was a huge jump in quality, not necessarily because the Blue Yeti is the best microphone on the market, but because the microphones I was using before were so trash. They were literal USB Logitech stand-up microphones that I only had through things like Guitar Hero. When I upgraded to the Blue Yeti, like that was a big thing for me. With regards to like software and stuff, you know, I used iMovie for a while, but when I switched to VideoPad, a lot of restrictions were lifted. Even though VideoPad again is not a great one, it's not great. It's not a great editor, but you can do a lot with it. You just have to stick with all the BS, and that I did. I made a lot of editing-intensive videos on VideoPad, and that definitely improved the quality. But if we're talking about efficiency, hands down, Premiere. Premiere has made everything so much more efficient. Premiere is way better of a program than VideoPad. A lot of people have been bashing on Adobe recently for like the prices and stuff. All that's totally warranted. Their prices are ridiculous, and I'm not going to personally stop you if you go and pirate something. I'm not saying I advocate it, but I'm not going to personally stop you. But even with all that said, let's not pretend that the Adobe programs aren't great. Like, they're phenomenal. If you guys have the option to use Adobe, whatever option that is, I recommend you do it. Premiere saves you so much time in the long run. Everything I'm doing right now just wouldn't be possible without Premiere. So that's kind of my response, I guess. Also, this backdrop helped a lot. I only got this recently. Such a good investment. What is the absolute most ridiculous idea for a video that you had that sounds cool to you and you thought, no, I can't do that. Literally no one would but me would care. I know we've all had a couple of those. Freaking great question, by the way. That's another serious one. Yes, there's a couple. So one of the series I wanted to do was a Star Wars Battlefront Galactic Conquest series, where basically I choose which planet I go to based on voting from the audience. Now, when I attempted originally on PatNet Games so many years ago, I was not nearly the channel size, nor just had the creative capacity to carry something as intensive as that through. It wasn't even that intensive, but at the time, you know, I wasn't going to be able to keep up with it, basically. A consistent schedule was not possible at the time. So I would love to do that again sometime now. I think it could even theoretically work with my current channel sizes, but it would just take a lot of people who are interested enough in the concept, and Battlefront 2 Galactic Conquest is not necessarily an highly esteemed footage to watch. And that's classic version, by the way, not the Beetle front, as I like to say, with the EA. It's not that one. The original Galactic Conquest, so niche. Another thing I want to do that theoretically I think people would actually be interested, I just practically it's not something I could make yet. I've always wanted to do an Amiibo mockumentary style tournament. Basically, the idea is people train their amiibos to go up against the other people's amiibos in a tournament, while also having one-on-one interviews where they explain the different things they try to teach the amiibo and stuff like that. And then there's a host, and it's mockumentary style, so it's a comedic thing. Of course, training your amiibos is something that's arguably not even possible. There's been a lot of tests about it not actually working super well, but I really like the idea. But of course, you just need a big cast of people, you need cameras, you need spaces to film, you need amiibos. So it's something that I'd like to do at some point. I'm not discrediting the idea yet, but that is a project that I've always wanted to do since amiibos came out. That's when I first thought of it. Last question, this is for the goofy one, I think. If you were transported back into the body of your 13-year-old self for one day, what would you do? It's very interesting that you said 13 specifically, because I believe I was 14, just barely 14 when I first started YouTube. So being in 13, I would probably start YouTube a lot sooner with competence. I would be a lot more competent with what I create. I would readdress what the kind of stuff is I want to make. I would basically just go a lot heavier with it at the time. At the time, believe it or not, it wasn't extremely difficult to actually get some retention. So if you just had someone who was working hard and making interesting content, which I like to think I do now, you would get a lot more retention than you would nowadays. And not that retention's everything, but if I would have started building up retention back in 2013, or sorry, 2012, actually, if I was 13, then, you know, I might be at a different place today. That's something practically I would probably do, but also just socially, I would interact with more people. I definitely took an L in the social front for many years of my life after 13. So I would try to be more open towards going to social events and hanging out with people, and really just trying to open myself up more, because it really is YouTube that taught me how to open myself up. As crazy as that might sound, I'm not a very social person. I'm much more sociable now than I was before, though, basically. So that's what I would do. It was a goofy question that turned into a very serious answer, but I appreciate you asking nonetheless, Bailey. We got another question from 12Gauge69, very, very classy name, I just want to add, who says, what is your dreams in life? I kind of briefly talked about this in terms of career stuff earlier with Naveed's question, but to kind of change this one a little bit into things outside of creatively. Honestly, I would love to live somewhere relatively secluded, an area that's nice to walk around, but still has fast enough internet. I know that's not something that should be included in your dreams, but given that my entire livelihood is pretty much online, I would like to have a place that's secluded and fast internet. Doesn't always come hand to hand, but also just be surrounded by, you know, people that I love and people that love me back. Whether that be a family or friends or something like that. That's the dream. You can't get much better than, right? Also, still creating. That would be great. So yeah, I would say that. Again, I'm not much of a specific dreamer. Wherever my path takes me, I'm probably going to be pretty content. I'd love to not stop creating, basically. And the easiest way to not stop creating is actually to live off of your creations. Funny enough, that's not easy at all, though. But thank you for the question. I very much appreciate it. There was no goofy question asked for that one. But Chinto22 asks, what is something that fills you with passion? Definitely making YouTube videos. And that's not because of YouTube videos specifically, because it's an opportunity for me to fully articulate and also express my feelings towards things. And it also acts as a way of meeting people and becoming friends with them. You know, the amount of friends that I've made online compared to offline is actually pretty crazy. It's almost 50-50. You know, I've met a lot of friends through working with them offline, and then I've met a lot of friends playing Counter-Strike with them or other games. Minecraft, I mean, Minecraft's probably the bigger one. And the fact that it's like almost so 50-50, and that I've actually met so many of the people that I met online, it's actually crazy. So I'm definitely very passionate about this video creation thing. If that wasn't clear over the last 8 years, it's something that I just love doing, and I appreciate that you guys are here to enjoy it with me. But something outside of YouTube that fills me with passion, honestly, hanging out with friends. I know I kept saying I'm not a super sociable person. I'm mostly talking about in larger personnel situations or with more strangers and stuff like that. But when it comes to hanging out with friends, I'm a big fan of that quality time, you know? You know, they say there's like different love languages or whatnot. Mine's definitely quality time. I just like spending time with people, and doesn't even really matter what we do from that point. So if it's a friend and it's someone I click with, just spending time with them, I love that. I try to specifically make room in my free time to do just that. Parties coming to my door? Very rarely. Most of the time, I just let those fly by. I'm not a party person, but hanging out with friends, usually over a meal, that's a great time. Also, movies and games. Love those. As for the other questions, what do you smell like? I kid you not, I have not worn this shirt in a couple months, and I don't think it's super dusty in the closet, but when I put this on, I was like, this shirt smells like dust. Like a lot of dust. Usually it smells like, you know, detergent and stuff like that. But right now, I smell like a lot of dust because of this shirt. I hope that was a goofy question and not a serious one. And that's going to do it for the questions. I just feel like I'm in a great spot with what I create. And I kind of said that before. I've said a lot of this before, but it's 8 years. It's 8 years. It's a long time. Almost 10 years. I'm 2 years short from being 10 years on creating dumb videos on this website. So that's actually kind of crazy. But hey, I have no plans on stopping anytime soon. Like I said, PatNet channel is back on schedule, so you should see some clips and bracket breakdown later this year. It's going to be on hiatus for a bit. We got to get some stuff produced. But Cakecore is still uploading. PatNet Games is still uploading. I even have another creative collaborative project that's big. I know you guys have heard this before. That's coming out sometime next year. It's going to be a while, but it is in works. So, and at this point, I'm pretty confident that I can get things that I start into fruition. And yeah, thank you guys. Thank you. What else can I say? 8 years, here's the 9, and maybe 10. Who knows? What am I going to do for that? 10 years? Freaking, I got to do something special, right? I don't know. Anyway, this has turned into a podcast, and what can I say? I'm a podcaster at heart, so I'll see you guys in the next episode, the next video. I don't know. So long. Goodbye. Also, I shaved my head. I buzzed my head. This is for Cakecore charity marathon. $75 donation. Someone buzzed my heads. We make the stretch incentives so nobody buys them, but sure enough, there you go. So, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. So long.